Well, obviously we do welcome the compliments and the praise by Mourinho, because obviously he is a great manager, a great coach, so we do give great value to those comments. But what we have achieved throughout the years with Juventus has been obtained thanks to the work and sacrifice that we have all made. The defense is not only made by the defenders, just like the attacking is not made by strikers and forwards only. So basically, to improve what needs to be improved in a club like ours is to focus on details and especially defend and attack as a team, as a united team. That's what we managed to do very well in the Champions League, and maybe in some cases in the Italian Championship we were not as well as we were in the Champions League. So that's the only difference that you can notice between our matches in the Champions League and in the Italian League. So that's why we conceded some more goals here in Italy. Luca Bianchin, Gazzetta dello Sport. Well, basically the question was the same. So I would also like to know more about your relationship with Mourinho that you met when you were at Inter, when he then took Milito in this exchange that involved it. And what about Varano as a defender, could win the Ballon d'Or? So who do you think would deserve the Ballon d'Or? And what about the defender's position that usually never win the Ballon d'Or? So, well, my relationship with Mourinho is obviously a relation with a person that has esteem for me and vice versa. I obviously have great respect from him, and we had a very nice chat before and after the match in Manchester, and we obviously also greeted each other when in Milan I met him in the United States. But apart from this, well, obviously, as to the Ballon d'Or, I would say that Varane certainly deserves to win it, because he won the World Cup and the Champions League in the same year. So then obviously I believe that in this very moment, and he also demonstrated, he proved that he never considered anything in any major turning point as it happened in the summer. Well, basically Cristiano Ronaldo also deserves of what he did. So what about your relationship with Pogba? I know that you've always been in contact in the last few years, so what do you think you will be particularly excited and a little emotional on Sunday? Well, with Paul, we've always had a very nice relationship, because apart from the fact that we are players, of course, football players, we are all human beings, and so we have grown up together. So that's why we have a very nice friendship, because we have managed to know each other much better. And of course, he's also an excellent player. So we met before, and he told me that it was a great emotion for him to come to this stadium that once was his stadium as well. So I hope that tomorrow we will be playing a nice match, but obviously I hope that Juventus will win. Fabiana Della Valle, Gazzetta dello Sport. So you come back after 1 year. So what about this Juventus in this new Champions League mood? What about your thoughts and opinions about it? Do you think there are other stronger teams than Juventus? Well, actually, I have found Juventus that is much more self-confident and also with much more experience, which is certainly the result of the excellent work that has been carried out by the club and the manager to raise the bar, to raise the level of a team that has always been very competitive. So I believe that this is certainly very important, because the Champions is certainly one of the major goals that we want to achieve, so we don't want to hide, and that's what we want to obtain. Hi Leo, Marina Salvetti, Tutto Sport. I would like to ask you, you are the example that coming back to Turin and coming back to Juventus is something positive, is something nice, because you spent 1 year away and then you have come back here much more motivated. As you are Pogba's friend, would you suggest him that you could come back here, as he feels that this is also his house? As you said, when you came back here, you said this is your home. So would you suggest him to come back to Juventus as well? Well, obviously, it's always a great pleasure when in a team like this, one of the players is a strong and one of the best in the world, and this is obviously something which is applicable to Pogba and many other players. But I was so lucky to come back here and to basically to reverse my trend compared to last year. So as far as Paul is concerned, obviously will depend on him and not on me, so I can tell him what to do. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And now the questions to Mr. Massimiliano Allegri. Tomaselli, Corriere della Sera, hello. In the long interview to France Football, Ronaldo said that he was quite surprised by you because you're very funny, and so I would like to know if this year also, thanks to the fact that Ronaldo is here, you're actually having much more fun, or maybe you missed something that needs to be added to this team to have even more fun. Well, actually, I obviously appreciated Cristiano's words. Well, having fun means that we win, so fun is like victory in my mind, because in this moment things are going very well, and in this moment, in this part of the season, it's not that we can take any trophies. Tomorrow could be our first target to achieve, that we can reach either first in the group or as just qualified for the next stage. And then, of course, we have other two matches to be the first, to have the first position in the group. But what really matters is to get to March in the best physical and mental conditions, and obviously being very competitive to win Scudetto and to win Champions and Coppa Italia and Supercoppa. That is our second target for this season, as on the 16th of January we're going to play it against Milan. Good evening, Alberto Ghiaccio, Corriere dello Sport. So, do you think it's fair that Benatia says that he doesn't really appreciate the fact that he's not playing a lot, and so in general you will have to understand whether you actually need him or not? So do you think that's something, these comments are really appropriate 3 days before such an important match? Well, actually I don't know what he said or not, but he knows very well that he plays in a very important team, and so this implies the fact that sometimes you might not be fielded, you might not play on the pitch. So out of 14 matches, I think that he played 6 or 7, so basically 50%. So in the defense we have a lot of top players, but I mean, personally speaking, I consider him just like all the others. He's an important player, so it's very difficult to find players of the same level of Benatia or Barzagli or Chiellini or Rugani himself that also arrived at the end, and the same for Benatia, that played a very good match against Cagliari on Saturday, and the same can be said of Bonucci. So of course these comments can be made, and why not? Obviously that's his thought, and why not? That could be acceptable. La Stampa, I would like to ask you about the situation of the injuries, because I saw Cancelo that was training in the group. So what about his condition? He managed to recover. What about Mandzukic? Because he had some problems with his ankle. So what can you say about them? Well, as to Mandzukic, I would say that his ankle is definitely better. On today, I didn't bring him with him because he had to go up the stairs. So I didn't really want him to get injured even more, and so that's why I decided not to bring him to the match. It was just an act of prevention, to prevent him from... Why are you smiling about that? Why are you laughing? That's serious. As to the others, well, I read in the news that Juventus has something like 11, 12 injured players. All the players are dead. Well, that's not true. When I arrived on the pitch, I actually found out that only Douglas Costa and Bernardeschi are actually injured. Bernardeschi hopefully will be able to play against Milan, and Douglas Costa we still don't have. And Emre Can, of course, we hope that he will be able to recover as soon as possible. And then Mandzukic, and then Kemer, that has got Keane one that has a problem with the muscles. Well, as to the other players, they're absolutely available for tomorrow's match. Khedira you can say the same of Khedira, and okay, the others are all fine. So tomorrow we're going to play a very important match for sure. So we need much better play compared to the one that we did in Manchester, because they are a kind of team, as they demonstrated in Manchester, that even if they didn't really play a very nice technical match, they could be dangerous at any time, because Pogba's shot and a couple of balls that were recovered, so they're very, very fast at the front. So tomorrow there will be Rashford and Martial and Sanchez, so we have to be very concentrated and focused, because tomorrow we are going to play a very important match and the result will be very crucial. Della Valle, Gazzetta dello Sport. So apart from the fact that you managed to recover most of the players, but is there anyone in particular that is more tired and maybe needs some more time to rest, apart from Cancelo and Matuidi? Or do you think you're going to change something about the lineup that you fielded in Manchester? Well, I don't remember what players it brought to Manchester. Can you just remind me the lineup? Oh, Cuadrado. Okay, Cuadrado was certainly in a very positive moment. Well, who else? Can you tell me? And tomorrow, I don't know. Maybe they will be playing the same three players. I have to choose whether Matuidi needs to rest or not. But especially because he didn't train enough, and because luckily he was able to get to the final of the World Cup and then he won it. So obviously on Saturday he played a match that maybe was not that brilliant, but nonetheless his performance was quite good. So he gave a very important contribution. So he managed to did his best. So that's why he probably needs some time to rest, also because Khedira is in good condition, so it's a very important recovery, because he's just 20 years old, so he can recover very quickly. So I would say that tomorrow Matuidi could probably rest. Are there any other questions? So these comments you're making about Mandzukic, so it means that basically if he can't play, he usually goes home, because he didn't come to Manchester because he had a sprained ankle. Then last night he actually decided to go back home as well. No, I just said that as on Saturday he had this painful ankle. I actually preferred to let him rest at home because there were some steps, and so I actually thought it was better to avoid this. Okay, of course I was joking about this. Mandzukic is certainly a very important player for us, and he's a player that can improve our physical structure, so he also scored important goals, and so the fact that he could be available just like Khedira and all the others is certainly important, especially in the front part of the team. So obviously I'm glad that he managed to come back. So every year he's got this kind of problems. The first year, if you remember, he had problems with an elbow. There was an infection that was very difficult to get rid of. Then in the year of München, if I'm not wrong, he also had some health problems. So sometimes he has got this kind of problems. And so obviously when he's not well, it's much better to let him rest. And he's not the only one, because even also Bernardeschi, of course, he was not really sure to be in a good shape. So that's why I decided to leave him out, because taking him on the bench without being able to guarantee a 100% performance was not acceptable for me. So that's why I decided to preserve him and to prevent any further injuries, and so that I could use him for other matches, for example, the match against Milan on Sunday. There is one last question. Sport Alternativo Brazil. So you said that Ronaldo's not scored in Champions League yet. What about your expectations about his performance? Well, I hope he will score tomorrow, because he didn't play the first match, he didn't play the second, so he basically just played one match in the Champions League with a wonderful assist. So he hasn't played so much in the Champions League. That's it. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.